let's time travel, shall we? I invite you to travel with me back to the year 2008. Now, a lot happened that year, some of which we might prefer not to revisit. But I want to take us back to the summer, to June 2008, the Unitarian Universalist Association's annual meeting, our General Assembly, where thousands of Unitarian Universalists from around the country and around the world gathered in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The event on the evening in question was a performance of composer Jason Shelton and lyricist Kendall Gibbons' Sources cantata, which is a 7-movement piece of music celebrating the sources of our living tradition and the threads that bind them together. Whew, I loved the music. I loved the words. I was loving the whole thing. And then we arrived at the 5th movement, entitled No Other World. It was dedicated to our 5th source, humanist teachings. The lights dimmed in the huge hall, the screen filled with images of space, stars and galaxies, stardust and planets, and I was so excited to see what would come from the choir and the musicians to match the beautiful, majestic images on the screen. But as I began preparing for this sermon over a decade later, all I remembered was the word no. In my recollection, the piece of music consisted of the choir shouting, "No, no, no." So this past month, I went back to listen to it again. You can find the recordings on YouTube. And not surprisingly, I discovered that in reality, the words are much more complex than no, no, no. The music is stunningly beautiful. It begins with a single solo voice. I would live simply, bravely, and nobly. Okay, I thought back in 2008, hearing it for the first time, I'm on board with that. You see, I'm a good Unitarian Universalist, always analyzing the lyrics to see if I can agree with them. I've finally stopped looking ahead at the words while we're singing hymns, but as a teenage UU who happened to be attending Catholic high school, I used to do just that. A militant atheist, whenever the word God appeared, I would literally put down my hymnal and refuse to sing. I was frustrated, confused, and angry. I was frustrated with what I was being taught at my UU congregation and my Catholic high school. I was confused by how they could be so different. I was angry because I desperately wanted to believe, but simply did not. But living simply, bravely, and nobly, give me that any day. The music swelled and the chorus began. The time is now. The place is here. The good we know. The earth we share. This day we have. This love we give. Yes, I thought. Yes, this is the crux of our faith. This is the joy and the beauty of our humanist heritage. What a celebration. The chorus continued and my heart sank because here were the no's. No other truth. No other joy, the choir sings fiercely. No other life, no other world. And I thought, if this is our statement, what is the difference between Unitarian Universalists and religious fundamentalists who proclaim that their truth, their way, is the truth, the way? How is it constructive to deny and dismiss the beliefs that so many hold dear so as to proclaim our certainty? You see, I was in seminary in 2008, and I was building a new way for myself, one that was moving from anger to acceptance, from frustration to surrender, from confusion to mystery. I had let go of my militarism, if not my atheism yet, and I found myself curious instead, open to life and love and the potential for an even greater love that surrounds us all. I didn't have any designs on anyone joining me in my newfound delight in transcendence. But I did hope that my faith tradition might move from rejection to affirmation, as I had. So no other truth, no other joy, no other life, no other world felt, well, altogether pretty negative. I was looking for yes. I am still looking for yes. And I don't think I am alone. I believe that 21st century religion must approach the world with affirmation of the life that we human beings share with each other, with the other beings of this planet, with the earth as a whole, our blue boat home. And I believe that Unitarian Universalism can only be a faith for our time, for this tumultuous, scary time, if we let go of our impulse to proclaim what we do not believe and instead lean into what we do, that all people have worth and dignity, that all are deserving of compassion, that our planet requires our care and commitment, that true justice is for all. We can and we must counter the negativity and fear of our day with a resounding yes. So today I want to share with you what I have learned about this yes from my work at Winship Cancer Institute as an interfaith chaplain. And so I invite us now to continue the work of this past month's sermon series on humanism, as we look at the foundations humanism provides for care and compassion for our fellow human beings, for curiosity and openness, for social reform and changing the world 2 hands at a time. On the wall of the stairwell between the first floor lobby and the infusion center at Winship's Clifton Road campus is a quote. One of the essential qualities of the clinician is interest in humanity, for the secret of the care of the patient is in caring for the patient. On my first day of work this past September, I took a picture of that quote on the wall. This is that picture. And I sent it to my brother Evan, who is a third-year resident in neurosurgery in New York City. Patient care is my brother's passion, and for him, while it is brain surgery, it's not rocket science. For Evan as a doctor and for me as a chaplain, the secret of the care of the patient is in caring for the patient. The quote comes from Dr. Francis Weld Peabody from his 1927 essay entitled The Care of the Patient. Peabody was the son and grandson of Unitarian ministers. His grandfather was Francis Greenwood Peabody. No, his father was Francis Greenwood. His grandfather was Ephraim Peabody, a generation before, a good name, Ephraim. Francis Greenwood was the pastor of First Unitarian Cambridge, Massachusetts, and later dean of Harvard Divinity School, where he developed the Department of Social Ethics. According to Harvard's write-up, in his teaching, preaching, and writing, he portrayed a religious tradition that stressed members as agents of social change, de-emphasizing personal salvation in favor of social action. His father, Ephraim Peabody, had been minister of the famed King's Chapel in Boston. Before that, the elder Peabody had ministered in Cincinnati, my hometown. He was an early Unitarian missionary to what was then considered the West. And he was part of the movement of Western Unitarian Christianity toward transcendentalism and humanism. He was also a reluctant opponent of slavery who assisted fugitive slaves, including Frederick Douglass. But Ephraim Peabody believed essentially that the recolonization of Africa by former slaves was the solution to the nation's 19th century ills, rather than the freeing of American slaves to live as free people on this nation's soil. But we see the generations and the evolution of thought, and at the dawn of a new century, his son, Francis Greenwood, came to believe strongly in freedom for all, and love of all human beings as foundational for his Unitarianism. The religion of the 20th century, Francis Greenwood wrote, must contemplate the world not as a chaos of competing atoms, but as an organic and invisible whole. It must socialize its hopes and save people, not singly, but together, the poor with the prosperous, the employed with the employer, the black with the white. Francis Greenwood Peabody believed we, all of us together, could change society, change the world, and make it a better place for all people. And his son, Francis Weld Peabody, the doctor of the quote on the wall, took his father's ethos to heart. One of the essential qualities of the clinician is interest in humanity. The secret of the care of others is to care for others, all others, embracing difference and distinctions of race, class, ability, gender, background, education, illness or health, ability to pay, appearance, you name it. It is not rocket science. It is not brain surgery. But it is hard. I think often we Unitarian Universalists throw out the first of our 7 shared principles, the commitment to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, as simple and easy. We just do that, right? But when we stop and think about it, saying yes to the worth and dignity of every human person, everyone, every human person, it's a radical statement. It's a challenge to what in many ways is instinctual to us as humans, to circle our wagons, to affirm and love and have compassion for those in our families, those we know, those who look like us, who live like us, who believe like us, who think like us, those we deem good. To broaden the circle so as to encompass the whole of humanity, to not only have interest in, but truly care for all human beings, let alone for all beings and for the earth herself, requires patience and perseverance. It requires flexing muscles we might not always use. It requires building new skills. It requires practice. And it requires a spiritual foundation that we are privileged to have in our religious tradition. It is a foundation that comes from many sources, one of them being humanism. The third Humanist Manifesto, penned in 2003, states that humanists are concerned for the well-being of all, and that humanists long for and strive toward a world of mutual care and concern. That the joining of individuality with interdependence enriches our lives, encourages us to enrich the lives of others, and aspires hopes of attaining peace, justice, and opportunity for all. I see this as a shift in humanist thought, a welcome one. Because the humanists of 1933 who wrote the first Humanist Manifesto were radical rejectors of the supernatural, of the divisive and dismissive nature of religion that focused solely on otherworldly salvation at the expense of the common good. While religion is still used today to divide and exclude, to separate and segregate, 21st century humanism need no longer focus on what we do not believe, nor on the rejection of what others do. Because the radicalism of today's humanism lies in our fundamental interest in humanity, in our commitment to this world that we share, in the vision of the world that we seek, in the yes we say to life and to love and to our fellow human beings in a world besieged by no's. No, not you. Or you either. No, you can't. No, you don't belong. No, it won't work. No, I don't have time. No, you can't come in. No, I can't possibly care for you. with the nose standing on our heads and tugging at our ears and pulling at our tails, we say yes. Yes to life. Yes to love. Yes to our neighbor. Yes to humanity. Yes to the earth. Yes to a deeper justice. Yes, yes, yes. Humanism gives us the ethical, the moral, and yes, the spiritual foundation to replace the no's with yeses. But in order to do so, we have to let go of the urge to reject and defend and replace this urge instead with interest, with curiosity about and care for the other, with our commitment to create with others a better world, a brighter world, a kinder world, our hearts open to what might be when we join our hands with theirs. At Winship, I practice every day the cultivation of compassion, of curiosity, of warm-hearted regard for those whose beliefs are different from my own. I'm not going to stand before you and tell you that this is easy. It requires patience and perseverance. It requires flexing muscles that I haven't always used. It requires building new skills, and slowly but surely, I am getting better at it. My job is not to judge or convince or dissuade or disavow. My job is to affirm, to accept, to sit with. My job is to welcome questions along with certainty, faith alongside doubt, fear in the exact same breath as courage. My job is to be open to the other, to attune to where they are, to provide some comfort in the midst of a nightmare, some solace in the midst of unspeakable suffering. And when I cannot do those things, my job is simply to be a witness, to hold pain, to acknowledge the reality of what is. And I'll tell you what, I cannot do my job with no. I can only do it with yes. Because in the cancer center, sometimes the golden present is all there is, and it awaits a response from my patients, from their families, from the hardworking staff who care for them, and from me. And we say yes. Yes to life in the face of death. Yes to strength in the face of pain. Yes to love in the face of loss. Together, we are building a new way forward, a way of affirmation and acceptance, acknowledgement and attunement, a celebration of difference and distinction, and a deep respect for the inherent worth and dignity of every human person, and for that which binds us all. In a world full of no's, may it be that each of us finds the courage to respond to life's call with a resounding yes. Let's do it again. Yes. We just may change the world. Amen.